Deputy Secretary Hargan, thank you so much for being on with the Sara Carter Show today. I know it's been an incredible day. Actually, it's going to be life-changing for so many people. You've been watching the Moderna committee actually talk about the new vaccine
Right.
that is coming out and rolling out across the country. Pfizer also has a vaccine that's supposed to
Yep.
be over 97% effective. These
Yep.
vaccines. Talk a little bit about that. I know everybody's on pins and needles. Everybody wants this vaccine, wants life to get back to normal.
Yes. So yeah, I've been watching the Moderna Advisory Committee this morning, the FDA Advisory Committee that's considering it this morning. So it's going on right now, and that's probably going to run throughout the day. People can watch it at fda.gov. We're live streaming it so people can see the same information that the advisory committee is getting. You can see it as well, and you can see their deliberations over it. But the numbers are coming in very well, very encouraging, just as they have all along. It's over 94%, 95% effective. So you're seeing the numbers look very, very similar to what we saw in the Pfizer vaccine.
Right.
And the great thing about this is that we already have a little under 6 million doses ready to go and get into people's arms after we get the word from FDA. And we're hopeful that FDA is going to be ready if they're depending on how the advisory committee comes out. And again, looks encouraging that we'll be able to get a statement of intent from FDA, just like we did before tonight or tomorrow morning, that will sort of say, FDA feels very good about the data that they've seen from Moderna. So that's really going to augment our ability to roll more vaccinations out, just to augment the millions of doses that we've already gotten from Pfizer, and to add to that. So that's going to be great. It's really going to be a substantial increase in the amount of vaccines that we can get out there and help us all start returning to our normal lives.
I think that's absolutely incredible. I mean, we have really been through a lot this year, not only our
Yes.
nation, but people all over the world. And this is an absolutely incredible achievement. And I want to talk about that because there's a lot of rumors, unsubstantiated theories out there, even conspiracy theories, people concerned about taking, some people, not everyone, a lot. I think there's more people that want to run out and get the vaccine than
Right.
there are those that don't. But how do you explain to people like this Operation Warp Speed, getting the private companies to get ready, research and development, to put together these incredible achievements in such a short period of time? How do you, maybe satisfy those that are concerned about taking the vaccine and tell them, look, this is more important than, and it's safe? How do you
Right.
convince them of that?
Well, I'll say first off, the moment that I can get the vaccine and my family can get the vaccine, I'm taking it. And so there you go. I'm on the board of Operation Warp Speed here at Health and Human Services, and I've been seeing the data going on. We have over 70,000 people enrolled between the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, over 70,000 people, and we have not seen any severe negative reactions so far in those trials. I mean, so we are I feel strongly about this. I'm talking about myself personally
Mm-hmm.
on this, that I would do that. But then you look beyond, people say, well, why is it moving so quickly? This is really a record in terms of the modern history of vaccines and being able to prepare them. And there are a few reasons for that. One is that, normally in the normal course of making vaccines, you do the research and development, then FDA kind of considers the data over a period of time. Then they move to once they approve, you move to building out manufacturing capacity. And after
Right.
that, you move to doing distribution capacity. We were able to, because of the generosity of the American people and the American taxpayer, we were able to do something that was very innovative. We were working on building factories out and building the distribution system out at the same time that the researchers were working on the vaccine itself.
Mm-hmm.
And so we wanted to have those doses in hand in case they turned out well. If it hadn't, that would have been possibly a waste. But it turns out that our optimism was justified in these cases, and that we're able to move directly from an approval to having the vaccines in hand and then being able to distribute them right away. You saw that with the Pfizer vaccine. That's one part of it. The other part of it is that this is a national priority. So we were able to really direct the FDA agency staff, and they wanted to do this, is to have large teams standing by to analyze the data and to be able to look at it and look at it very deeply, but also there's been a lot of collaboration between the private sector and the government on this to be able to share data and to be able to see it
Mhm.
in closer in real time to when it's being produced. So there's been a lot of oversight. I talked to one of the yeah, I mean, so I'll let I heard your
Oh, no, no,
other
no.
question
I
there.
I really I think I don't want to forget to interject here just a little bit. You brought up something very important. The collaboration between the private sector and the government. And I remember for gosh, all the time I've spent at the Pentagon covering stories when I was a Pentagon correspondent and I was covering stories on research and development, and there was always this issue of slow rolling in the government. It wasn't that it was a bad product or there were bad products. It was that it would take so much longer if it was just the government doing it because the bureaucracy
Right.
was so heavy with red tape. And I don't think people understand this. But you brought up something very important, and I want to give credit to this administration. President Trump, you, everybody working together on Operation Warp Speed, the vice president, Mike Pence, people had told all of you this could not be done. We're
Yep.
never going to get a vaccine in time. We're never going to get it before the end of the year. They laughed at the administration when the administration said, no, we are going to do this. We are demanding that it be done. We want to save lives. And now you have done it. You have
Yeah.
actually done it. Do you think this is a new model for
Yeah.
how we're going to treat things in the future?
Well, we've certainly got a lot of lessons learned about this, and that we can do things much more quickly than we had anticipated. Some of the things, like saying this is going to be the number one priority for FDA, you can't really do that for more than one priority. So the conditions of the national emergency mean that we're able to dedicate staff and pull them from other places. I don't know if we'd be able to do that in regular course, but there are a lot of reforms that we can make to our regular regulations and the kind of red tape that we normally have around here. There's a lot of reforms that I've been talking with the staff here about that we want to carry over into the future. We've been doing that all along. You've seen that we had record numbers of generic drugs that have been approved in this administration already at FDA, and that's because of regulatory reforms and agency reforms that have been carried out already. And we're able to use those new models and that already much more efficient regulatory process and really augment it because of the emergency to be able to deliver this to the American people less than a year after we got the viral sequence from China. And so that is
Oh,
it's
wait,
an
stop right
amazing
there.
achievement.
The viral sequence from China. I've heard people bring this up like, we had to get the viral sequence from China. Now, WHO is heading over, sending experts and epidemiologists there to conduct research in China and Wuhan to see where the strain first started. It
Right.
seems like a long way. I mean, it seems like that should have happened in the first month, not a year later. I don't know if I don't know
Right.
how, as a scientist, how that would affect their research. But talk a little bit about getting that virus strain. And this is again for all those people out there that don't understand what this means when you create a vaccination. I am going to get vaccinated. I am with you on this 100%. My family will get vaccinated for it as soon as it's available. I believe in that. I believe in
Right.
modern medicine and protecting my children from COVID and my family, and especially those who are elderly and more susceptible. But talk about the virus strand that was used in order to develop this vaccine.
Well, they did give us the viral sequence in January, and
Okay.
but the investigation that there was a lot of dragging of heels on the part of China to be able to allow in international observers and researchers to figure out exactly what was going on here. So there are still a lot of mysteries about the origin of this viral strain and exactly how it appeared, when it appeared. And so I think that that's going to be something that we're going to be digging into really for
Wow.
a long time in the future. But a lot of it, I'm afraid, a lot of the data on the early outbreak is probably long gone, even at
That's
this
the
point.
That's the way I feel about it. I also the really I haven't heard anyone bring this up. Maybe it's just me. But early on, I remember a multitude of videos. I don't know if you remember this, Deputy Secretary,
Mhm.
but a multitude of videos where people in China were walking down the street and then they just collapsed, looked like they were collapsing into a coma or passing out. And the Chinese were pushing these videos. I'm assuming it came from the Chinese government because I can't imagine anything in China not being monitored, right? I have
Right.
friends that have gone to China and all of a sudden their phone, they go to send a picture or something and it just disappears and they're not able to send it because it blanks it out, or they get a message from the Chinese government saying you can't send this, picture. And they'd be like, whoa, how did that happen? But, so these videos started surfacing. And I remember early on thinking to myself, before it spread out of China, like, what's going on there? This has got to be like one of these insane viruses like we see in the movie Contagion, or, some kind of Armageddon virus. Like people are falling on the street and they're dying. But after that happened, we never really saw that
Right.
again, right? So
Right. We didn't. And certainly we didn't see that kind of thing happen in the United States. The virus has taken a pretty terrible toll on the United States, both
right,
from the point of view of the lives, the suffering, and then also obviously the economic effects from the lockdowns that have been
absolutely.
imposed because of the viral spread. So there's been, kind of a 1-2 punch on that, which, thankfully we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not an oncoming train. This
Right.
is something that we're really seeing. We're really seeing positives really appear here. But I think we're going to be having to do a retrospective on this. I mean, not only from the point of view of China and the origin of this and kind of the scientific origins of where this virus came from, but also our own response to it from a public health point of view, exactly what the interventions that we took, what the public health implications of what we did were. I
Mhm.
think that, a lot of things have been handled just because people had to act very quickly in the face of a lot of unknowns, particularly earlier on in the year. A lot of people don't see it. Science really has been sort of happening in real time over
Right.
the course of the last year. And a lot of stunning science has been happening in real time. And hence we end up with these new vaccines happening, before a year is out, even from that very little beginning of getting a sequence, genetic sequence, to be able to get that, to make a vaccine out of that, to get that into people's arms, to conduct the trials, get tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Americans actually to sign up for these trials across the vaccines, to be able to evaluate over 100 candidates for vaccines, whittle it
Mhm.
down to a handful, be able to sort of put resources behind all of those things. I mean, I went to a vaccine factory earlier in the year, and it had been a concrete slab, 2.5 months earlier, and it was a factory 2.5 months later. I mean, that just shows you what America can do when you put resources and the ingenuity of the American people behind it, that you can get these things done. I think it should be.
That's so incredible to me. I
Yeah,
wanted to ask you, because you were there at the factory, did they talk at all about the RNA technology, all this new technology in the development of
right.
this vaccine?
Yeah, I mean, you look at this new technology, because we really, while we have some of the older technologies, very traditional technologies that companies are sponsoring for this, they're somewhat slower in development. That's
Mhm.
how the people who are saying it's going to take a year, 2 years,
Right.
or more, they're really looking at the older vaccine timelines for older technologies. These newer technologies take less time. The real question was whether they were going to be safe and have efficacy, not about how long it takes to make them. This may change, has a good chance of changing our timelines for producing these kinds of products in the future, and really
That's
shorten the amount of time we do in the future for these
That's
things.
so incredible to me. And it always out of tragedy, comes these innovations. I mean, it's kind of like when, I'm covering the war and I'm in Afghanistan and Iraq. And, over
Mhm.
the years, the battlefield injuries actually led to innovations in science in at the Pentagon, and
Right,
even, in the private sector, where we saw incredible, robotics achievements, and limbs that were almost like that feel heat and can
right,
move based on, your brain. And I mean, there's just so much incredible innovation here. And I'm
right.
thinking about this not just in the sense of COVID, but the success of this for future viruses that we're going to be tackling. One of the things that came up, and this is to me really interesting, and I pose this question to you, is the evolution of this virus, because we're seeing a new strand, or apparently some type of new strand in Great Britain, is the vaccination going to work against, I guess, the new strands that we're seeing in other parts of the world? Or is it this RNA technology going to allow us to enhance the vaccine as this virus mutates?
So, we've been kind of pulling out, our researchers have been pulling out, viruses all along to see whether or not they're mutating in a relevant way. So, coronaviruses can mutate. The question was really, are the ways in which our vaccine fights the virus, the parts of
Mhm.
it that it attaches to, are those mutating? That would mean that our vaccines weren't going to be as useful. So far, so good. Like we're keeping our eye on this because that's obviously an open question. That's been an open question that we've been talking to our researchers about for months. Is we don't sort of want to sponsor all these vaccines and then find out that the virus is kind of mutating underneath us and sort of taking away all of the rationale for why we sponsored particular vaccines. So we've been looking at this question all along and kind of trying to keep on top of it.
So that's
Because
good to know. So we're
yeah,
seeing that epidemiologists. Are you working with epidemiologists all over the world? Is
yeah,
this is a explain
yeah,
that. How do
yeah.
you do that?
So we have all kinds of organizations, both in the private sector that sort of keep on top of this thing, and also we talk to countries around the world, both at the departmental level and CDC and others of our researchers, NIH and so on. We give grants out all over the world, and we talk
Mhm.
to the researchers who are watching, keeping track of where these viruses are coming from, so that we make sure that we don't end up with the virus mutating underneath us. It started out with a couple of strains of the virus already, but so far so good. You can't say permanently for the future that there won't be a mutation. Coronavirus is something that has a lot of different strands to it.
Mhm.
But again, this one seems to be, from a relevant point of view, seems to be stable and reacting to our vaccine. That's why you see the cohort that we're seeing, 94, 95 or higher degrees of efficacy for the vaccines that we've got in place right now.
I mean,
But
that's
yeah,
absolutely fantastic, because even if you think about it, even if it was 80%, you would want that, because right? And you're looking at
yes,
in the 90
yes,
percentile, right? For
yes,
those, especially for people that are susceptible to the virus. We've seen people with diabetes, people who are hospitalized, people who are overweight or have heart conditions. Those are the most susceptible to the
yes,
virus. And so for them, I think this is, and the elderly, this is going to be life-changing. Can you
yes,
explain how the rollout's going to work? I mean, how does I mean, we've all been watching it in the news. The vaccine just arrived. It's going to go to our healthcare workers, I believe, first,
yeah,
and then explain how
yes.
that works.
Sure. So, we did analysis. The CDC also has an advisory committee, just like FDA does. FDA is really looking at the safety and the efficacy of the vaccine. CDC is looking at the allocation of the vaccine, like where should the priorities be, and providing
Mhm.
recommendations to the states. States ultimately make the decision on where the vaccines go, and we'll distribute them as the state plans sort of tell us where they need these to go. But the first level is really nursing homes, assisted living facilities and their staff, healthcare workers, as you've seen, and also frontline workers. In other words, people like the policemen who, have interactions with the public all the time. They don't really have a choice about interacting with the public.
Right.
And then also, of course, the elderly, the medically frail. So these categories then can be taken, and those recommendations are taken by the states, and they put them into plans. They send them to us. Then we put the vaccines through regular medical product distributors who do this every
Mhm.
day, and millions of shipments and will take place according to normal form. UPS, FedEx, and the medical distributors that do this for their business all day, every day. So that's was the decision that we made, is to make sure that we partner with the private sector that does this as a matter of course every single day, and that has been so far been a very successful way to get the vaccine out there and get it
That's
into
great.
people's hands quickly.
So about how long do you think, in a time frame, or I don't know if you can do this, and uh, can we expect to receive a vaccination? And will it be just a combination of Pfizer, Moderna, maybe
Right.
others who are,
Yeah.
right there in the lineup, and then you're just going to keep rolling them out?
Yes. That's exactly it. So we're anticipating by the end of December we will have distributed enough doses, about 20 million doses. Obviously people
Is that
will.
in the United
That's in
States?
the United States. Yeah,
Okay.
we American taxpayer paid for this. They paid for the research. They paid for all of this.
So your
American.
message to Bill Gates, who says it doesn't matter if the Americans paid for this or anything, it's wrong for us to get it first. It should go.
The American people stepped up to this. We all took the risks on whether this would turn out or not, and we had an overt and open decision that this was going to go to Americans first. The American taxpayers paid for this, and that is who should get this first. Um, you
America
know,
first.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, we so 20 million doses by the end of December, another 30 million we estimate by the end of January, and then another 50 million by the end of February. So a total of 100 million Americans vaccinated by the end of February. So it would be 20 million by the end of December, 50 million aggregate by the end of January, and then 100 million by the end of February. That is, of course, there are always potential hitches along the way.
Right.
A factory could have an issue, a shutdown, any of those kind of things could happen. Distribution system could have hitches. This happens in real life. And so we're just talking about our projections. Now, so there could be some downside surprises if there are hitches in production or distribution, shipment, those kind of things. That happens as a matter of normal life. And then we also have two other vaccines, the AstraZeneca and the Johnson & Johnson vaccines that are in late stage clinical trials.
Right.
So those 100 million are outside of a potential upside surprise of having two more vaccines with their production capacity coming online sometime. It could be as early as January. Can't make any promises to that because you have to see the data as it's developing and seeing how well those vaccines are doing in their trials. But they're in the late stage clinical trials, and again, we could end up augmenting even more vaccines to get this out even more more quickly to the American people. And hopefully, American people, as they see this developing, as they see it going into people's arms, and all of the kind of crazy predictions that people had made about what would happen,
Right.
that they're not coming true, and that people are getting their shots, they're going about their daily business,
We will
and they're
not
becoming.
turn into zombies, America. We
Yeah,
will
they're
not
not
turn
turning
into
into
zombies.
zombies. I cannot tell you. I visited with some of the vaccine people. Zombie issue. You're going to bark like a dog. You're going to turn into another animal. All these crazy things that are
Yeah.
said. I mean, and it's crazy stuff that's said out there. But I'm hopeful now that people are seeing very openly. I mean, we already knew this because we've seen tens of thousands, in fact,
Right.
over 100,000 Americans getting vaccines all along in the clinical trials. That's been sort of invisible to the American people. But now that we're rolling out millions and millions of these doses of vaccines, I think people will be able to see it for themselves. They're going to more likely to know people in their neighborhood, healthcare workers, their grandparents, parents in nursing homes who have received the vaccine, and all's going well. So that's our expectation. And we hope that as the word of mouth spreads on this, we're obviously undertaking a campaign to make sure people feel confident about getting vaccinations.
I was just going to ask. That's
Yeah.
great. That's
Yeah,
great to know.
we're undertaking that because we know we need to get people's confidence in vaccines.
And
Um, and,
eventually we will see this roll across the globe, right? I mean, this is going to be other nations are developing vaccines as well. They will also be inoculating their citizens. It's not like it's just going to be America only. It's going to be
no,
America first for these vaccines that we are developing because the American taxpayer paid for it,
right,
and we are going to be rolling those out. But there are other nations are doing the same. Great Britain is doing the
right,
same. The
yeah,
United Kingdom has their own. Other places have vaccines. People will be vaccinated.
right.
They
That's
will
actually
be
already
vaccinated.
happened. Yeah, I mean, Great Britain has already been vaccinating people.
Right.
Canada already authorized this vaccine, the Pfizer vaccine. A few days before we did. Here in the United States. So you have peer
Mhm.
countries of ours that are already working on this. And obviously, these companies are multinational. They start manufacturing in other sites as well around the globe. So, yes, absolutely. And these other countries, Germany, the United Kingdom, and so on, they're all eager to get these vaccines and to put an end to it, not just in our country, but really globally, so we can
Right.
sort of reopen and return to our normal lives and not
Right.
just
Get our
Americans.
economies. Get our
Absolutely.
economies back in order, and of course, most importantly, protect our families and our loved ones and the elderly and those who are most affected by this terrible, terrible virus. And I hope, Deputy Secretary, that our government takes it very seriously, because we know the WHO won't, the World Health Organization will not, but we investigate this and find out how this happened and why China kept this from the world early on, and why China allowed it to spread globally, because this was China knew the Chinese Communist Party not only hurt their own people and their own nation, but destroyed economies and killed people all over the world by keeping this secret. And we don't even know the beginnings of it. We don't even understand what really happened here. And I hope we do. I'm going to give you the final word, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, well, Sarah, thanks for having me on, and I hope your listeners hear, the good news that is coming from this administration and from these companies that have performed so well. And when you talk about scrutiny, obviously, we here in the United States, we always sort of turn the magnifying glass on ourselves, and we're going to be looking at the lessons learned that we did, places where we can improve. But
Right.
also, it's what you're saying is absolutely valid. Other countries, international organizations, they have to undergo this scrutiny as well. Nobody in the wake of this is going to sort of not have to look very carefully at what they did,
Right.
information they had, information they shared, where these things started, how the reactions were had, and all these things. It's not just going to be the United States. Everybody's going to have to undergo this scrutiny. We're already undertaking it ourselves. Obviously, we're a country that really, argues with ourselves and undertakes a lot of scrutiny of ourselves, and that's appropriate. But everybody else will have to do this as well.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the time you took to come on the Sarah Carter Show. And, I hope you come back. I would like to bring you back. And I'm so glad we're not talking about it being any worse. Like, this is
Right.
the light at the end of the tunnel, right?
It is.
It's getting better. We're moving forward.
We absolutely
America, we are going to get better. We are going to heal, and we are going to get this vaccination thanks to you,
Yeah.
Deputy Secretary, and this
Me and
administration.
a lot of other people. Yes, absolutely. It's a great team. Ourselves, our private partners, our staff here. I mean, and really the American public and American science and technology, the companies, the researchers, clinicians, the healthcare workers, everyone has been just fantastic in this. And, I think kudos to everybody and the American people who supported all this all along. All the optimism was justified.
Thank you so much. I really hope you come back.
Thank you, Sarah. Happy
Thank
to.
you.